Welcome to part 2 of understanding mRNA technology and how you can reverse its effects with Claudia. Part 1, where Claudia breaks down everything you need to know, was on the Tuesday recording, chapter 22. This is chapter 24, where she'll be talking more about treating it. There is a handout for this presentation on the main page of my Substack. Go into that. It just says handouts for mRNA talk. Click on there and you can download her presentation. All the information she's going to be covering is there, so you can follow along. And welcome. Is there anything else I need to say?
I don't know. Do you need to make any announcements?
Do I need to make any announcements? Let's see. I don't think so. Well, I think we say what we want with regard to this presentation and to clips from this presentation here and at the end, which
Okay.
is Claudia's been great in saying that, so Claudia and I both, with my material and especially with Claudia's material, have both been getting shadow banned and violations and things. I got my first warning on TikTok for this material. I've gotten it for other material as well. Anytime I do anti-government stuff, it can get risky. And certainly either if it goes viral, if like a video like that goes viral quickly, which I've had several do that, then if I post it, it'll get community violations. And then if I post it again, it's shadow banned, meaning it doesn't spread very far. So the point is, we need your help. We need your help in spreading this information. Just sharing this presentation on YouTube with your friends, via email, here on Substack, any way that you can. I'll generate more clips, but the whole presentation is important. This is essential information. This is life-saving information. This is deep healing information that the powers that be don't want to have out, because the whole house of cards crumbles. And what we're doing here, we both have our necks out, and we love and appreciate you having our backs and helping us spread the good word, because we're very limited. We literally get blocked, but you're less likely to be. And so this is our ask. This is our request, is that you sort of reach one, teach one. And so anybody benefiting from this information shares it with someone they know that can benefit, which is literally everyone. Claudia and I both talk about healing that applies to everyone. It's not specialized. It's deep healing that we're offering for free, because we know that that's the way it should be, and we need your help in serving others and in giving it to others. That's it. And then my other announcement is tomorrow is where I'm going to present these 6 elemental species, I've been calling them, or kindred species, and giving you handouts similar to Claudia, and just doing probably a 2 or 3 hour presentation where everybody will just get all the information. We can do with it what we will. It's much less likely to be shadow banned. It's very sort of light and fun, but also really helpful. So that's tomorrow. And for those of you who thought I was going to present on Monday, I had planned to. It just wasn't in the cards. I go with the flow. I go with what's true, and it was not fun for me. But it has been fun this week, and I'm ready to present it tomorrow. So tune in tomorrow. I think that's it for my announcements.
Okay.
All right.
So
take it away.
Again, just a little bit of housekeeping. Disclaimer: none of the information contained herein has been evaluated by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. It is provided for informational purposes only, and it must not be used to replace professional medical advice. Any information provided in this video presentation should not be considered complete or relied upon in diagnosing or treating any medical condition. If you suspect you may have a disease or condition, you must consult a licensed medical provider for a diagnosis or specific questions about health issues.
Thank you.
Okay, and so I already talked about, like what the spike protein is, what it does, how it binds to receptors. And so when I started, um, I started following like all the daily briefings and everything. And one day I was in my kitchen preparing dinner. And all of a sudden I thought to myself, there must be a way, like there must be a way to fill in these receptors with something. So when you get exposed to the virus, it can't bind to these receptors. It doesn't replicate, and your immune system just takes care of whatever you were exposed to, and that's the end of that. And I said, well, hopefully, some scientist is thinking of this because here in my kitchen, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do much, right? So, and actually, like a few months later, I did do research, and they have research. They have tried to develop inhibitors and blockers of these receptors for many years before the pandemic, but they haven't been able to develop one because or get it authorized because it has so many side effects.
Mm,
So these receptors, that's another thing that I didn't mention. These receptors are very important in regulating blood pressure, among
mm,
other things. So anyway, this happened, I think, in December of 2020. And then I was meditating. Okay, so I've been meditating for, the past 20 years, more or less. And during the pandemic, my teacher, actually a Buddhist Lama, shared what's called a terma. And these are like ancient practices that they hid in stones that
mm,
could only be revealed or found when it was necessary. And so when the pandemic came, one of these termas was revealed, and a Buddhist Lama um, shared it. And so our teacher found out about it, and he shared it with us.
mm,
And so we were all, like doing this practice every single day together, and people that were getting sick, that were getting, if a family member or a friend of yours got sick, you would add it to the list on a WhatsApp. And, it was just like
mm,
super, super, super long list.
mm,
And then so I first studied with a woman shaman, and her teacher was the one who shared this with us. And then I studied with him. But anyway, um, she made like this little group, and we would meet every single day. And so I would be participating in the other group, which was like maybe 1,000 people,
mm,
and with her, right? And so, we were doing this practice. It's called the Vaira Armor. And we were doing this practice. So anyway, one day I wasn't doing that meditation. I was doing another meditation.
mm,
And all of a sudden, what happened was that everything went dark,
mm,
like black, like pitch black, which really never happens to me while I'm meditating. I see colors and like all sorts of things. And the only time that I remember that happening was after a surgery. I had breast cancer. And so after my surgery, I was going out and out and out of my body because the pain was undescribable.
mm,
And it was this place of like pure peace.
mm,
Like just there was nothing but peace, right?
mm,
And I could come into my body every time I remembered, I had children, and then
mm,
I would feel the pain and I would go out of my body and etc. So that's the only time that I've ever seen this place. And during this meditation, all of a sudden it gets pitch black, and I see this like sphere of white light coming down. And then it started to divide in like smaller spheres, and they were all throwing like flashes of light. And I said, okay. And so they started throwing flashes of light, and they started building this thing with light. And the best way that I can describe it is as if it were like a 3D printer. And so they started from the bottom up, and it was white light. And when they finished, it turned into golden light. And it was like this cylindrical thing made of like little spirals, like little ladders, but they were spiraled. They were spiraled around like the center, and one end was a little bit like bulkier. And when I saw this, I said, this is a molecule.
Mm.
Like I just knew,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. You just
I
know.
said, this is a molecule. And so I opened my eyes and I said, I have to figure out where to put this, right? While I figure out what it is or what it's for or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and so I had just left some crystals next to the window. Well, no, on my living room table. And so they would get charged with the moonlight. So it had been, like the full moon was like, I don't know, like maybe 2 or 3 days earlier. Oh, sorry. Oh my God. Sorry, sorry, sorry.
Mhm.
Mm. And so I there we go. And so I saw these crystals and I had a clear quartz crystal there. And I said, okay, I took the crystal and I said, whatever's in my head right now, please just go to the crystal. And I printed the crystal with it. And so I then, I remembered that I had this really nice box that in the shape of a butterfly. And so I looked for the box and I couldn't find it. And so I opened my drawer where I have all my stuff, and I found this scarf. And so I took it out. It was a scarf that somebody had given me like maybe 10 or 15 years earlier. And I didn't remember who gave it to me, but it was right there. And so I took it, I wrapped it up, I put it away. And then I said, okay, because of this random thought that I had when I was preparing dinner, I said, this is like a hologram of the spike protein. Like, I didn't even know what a hologram was, but
Totally, totally.
I said,
Yes.
"This is a hologram of the spike protein."
But
And so,
it's true. Yes.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so my kids woke up, and I told them, "So grab a pendulum," and I would ask them, "Is what I think is in this crystal, in that crystal?" Yes. Is Um, is what I is that thing the hologram of the spike protein? Yes. And then my other son, who was, a little bit more skeptical. Um, yes, yes. And then I started asking my friends, and everybody said yes. Okay? And so I said, okay, so I'm going to start doing research to see how to use this. And so that was like the first hologram that came in. And so what I started to do in like this meditation group that I was in, whenever somebody said, I have COVID, could you please, like do the practice for me and da da da, I would tell them, I would contact them directly and I would say, this happened and would you like to receive it? And they would say yes. And then we started getting so many people that it was impossible, right? To ask everybody. And so I spoke with my teacher and I asked her, if she thought that it would be okay for me to send it. I explained how it happened, etc. And she said, these people are asking for healing, so they're already consenting, they're open to receiving it. And so um I sort of did like a little clinical trial, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
um, and I would, try to get as much information as I could, age and comorbidities and da da da. And the common denominator of every single person that I sent these to is that their doctors, well, No, they would recover much quicker than their doctors expected. Like, for example, this and like a 75-year-old guy, um, he went into the hospital and they were going to intubate him like the next day. And I sent it, and the doctor said, "Okay, no, you don't need to be intubated, but you're going to have to stay here like until Wednesday." This was a Saturday, and then he was discharged on Sunday. So it was much much quicker. Like it was noticeably quicker
Mm.
that they would get better. And mm, sorry about that. And so I started doing research, learning more about the spike protein. And okay. So this was the first confirmation that I got. A friend of mine, we're just over Zoom, and I told her about it, and she said, "Well, why don't you send it to me, and I'll be your guinea pig." So I took the crystal out, and I unwrapped it, and I sent her the hologram, and her eyes were closed, and she felt it. I sent it all the way down to her, to the base of her sternum. When she opened her eyes, she said, "I felt it all the way down here." And she's not, she's not into healing. She just believes in it. Okay, she's not like very sensitive to energy. So anyway, when I go and get the scarf, I I noticed this. This is the pattern on the scarf.
Oh, wow. Oh
And
my
for
gosh.
those of you, yeah. So this is the scarf, the only scarf that was in that drawer. So for those of you who don't know, um, or not familiar, this is a drawing of the coronavirus, right?
We're the pause for the writing that the goddess has. She's such a good writer. And
And
art
so
direction.
exactly. It was like when I saw that, and in the handout you're gonna see, I kept doing like scientific research about this spike protein.
Mm,
Um, I found out that it's formed by what's called trimers. It's like three units that are identical.
mm,
And so when you open up the scarf, these little flowers that you see here,
mm,
these in the middle of the scarf, they're separated into three.
mm.
And so it's like, seriously? Like, what are the odds, right? What are the odds?
We're way
Like,
beyond coincidence, yeah.
you can't make this stuff up.
Ditto.
And so anyway, I continued to research, and in the handout, you're gonna find a link to this little like video that they made, like a computer animation of how the spike protein binds to the receptors, and it changes conformation. Like the configuration is different when it's only attached to the virus than when it's already attached to the receptor. And so I watched the video, and at the end, when it's already attached to the receptor,
Mm.
they drew this. This is like the computer animation. And that's exactly what I saw.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Wow. Wow, I
If
had
you
to
can
see that.
imagine these little like curly things as if they were ladders made of light, and if you can imagine this made of light, that is exactly what I saw.
And you saw it being assembled and then in that exact shape.
In this exact shape when it's already joined to the receptor. So this is what it looks like. It's like
Mhm.
more of a triangle, more of a flower when it's attached to the virus, and then it changes into this when it's attached to the receptor.
Mm.
And so I started saying, okay, so how to get this out there, right? Because if I just send it to people, my reach is going to be like really limited, right? And so, um, like one of my best friends, or actually like my soul sister, she said, "Why don't you print it on a waterfall
Mhm.
so the water will take it
Mhm.
everywhere?"
Mhm.
And so we went to two different waterfalls around here, and we imprinted them there. And much later, I took videos of these waterfalls. Um, yeah, like in 2023, because I also included another one, but I'll explain that a little bit later. And so for this, I was imprinting it in little bottles and distilled water, and I was giving it to my people. I was sending it. It was like really, really hard to send. Um, I would have to go like 4 or 5 times to the post office because either they closed the exact minute that I
Been there. Yeah.
yeah, it's like ridiculous, right? But it was really hard. I mean, if I was sending it here in the US, the bottles would eventually arrive. Um, because I said, okay, so this is going out everywhere. I started imprinting it on the moon. I started imprinting it on the sun, so it would get to food, um, fog, clouds, everything I could think of. And but then I realized that intention and engagement and participation matters.
Mm.
Okay. So I would send it out to everybody, that was open to receiving it. That's how they are on the videos. And so I posted some videos on Instagram, but I didn't really explain because, I couldn't. So, and they got like 20 views. so so anyway, I came up with, okay, so how do we make this more observable? How can I reach more people? And the links to these videos are in the handout as well. There's one short version um, that's like one of the first things that started getting me shadow banned on TikTok until I was banned. And so the little bottles, it was really, really hard because it would take me like a really long time because I would also tune them to the personal frequency of the person. Then I thought about crystals. And also, what was really funny is that when I shared it with people, because I share it with all my people, they would say, "Oh, thank you. I'm going to save it for when I get COVID." And I was like, "No, this is to prevent please." And that's like that's something that I want to talk about, like how we don't have this culture of prevention, right?
Totally. Yes. Yes.
We don't have this culture of prevention. Instead of we wait until we get sick instead of doing stuff so we won't get sick, right?
Mhm.
Instead of building our immune system, instead of going out in the sun and
Caring for
drinking.
ourselves. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think that that's an important point to make. And so in the handout, I included again who I'm currently following because I forgot to include one person, Dr. John Campbell. I think that he's also a good person to follow. And so we already talked about, like why the spike protein is concerning and da da da. I already told you about, like my whole process um when the vaccines rolled out, right? And but actually, like one friend said, that it's weird that you got this because, now there's vaccines, so it's not going to be really important, it's not going to be useful. And but then when I started digging into, the vaccines, I said, I think that this is why I received this, or I recalled it, or however it got to me, right?
Mhm.
Um, Currently, I think that I recalled it, but so I started thinking, okay, so if the spike protein is what's causing all of these effects, then let's see if I can, you know, like develop a hologram, not to fill with light the receptors, but to dissolve the spike protein with light.
Mm.
And so months and months and months of research until I found like the sequence. It's different for each product, and I'm going to try not to mention that word so we won't get.
Mm.
Although I already did, but and so I did, and that one I also printed on the waterfall, and
Mm.
I started using crystals. I started using crystals, clear quartz crystals instead of amethyst. Um, the first ones I was using amethyst, but now I'm using clear quartz. And just recently, I did it like out of sort of intuition, but just recently, the same friend, soul sister, she gifted me a book. It's called the Book of Stones, which is like the Bible of crystals.
Mm. Mm.
And so I I looked up clear quartz crystal. This is a perfect stone to program. It has memory. It has, like, okay, yeah, okay, I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a computer chip.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
It's that. And so then I thought, and this happened when I first learned about shedding. Right,
Mm.
when I first learned about shedding, I said, "Oh my god, like we are all screwed, basically." And then I said, "No, because then this is, you know, I'm going to figure out a way to do that." And so I did, and I started, again distributing it to whoever was open. Not I didn't imprint that one on the waterfall in the beginning. Um, so I would just send it to people in these crystals, whoever wanted them.
Mm.
And
And Claudia, what happened when they would receive the crystal? Like, do they just hold it? Do they
oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. How
So
does it get transferred? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna talk about that when I finish with all the holograms that the crystals have. Okay,
Okay, perfect.
like the instructions, sort of how to use them.
Okay.
And so I started learning about mRNA shedding and the DNA plasmids, all of the stuff that we already talked about, and LMPs and etc. That they can be shed as well. And so I thought to myself, like, just clearing the spike protein isn't enough, right?
Mm.
It's basically um, just doing what pharmaceuticals do. It's just treating the symptom, but it's not really taking care of the problem,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And so I started doing all this research about the mRNA and the DNA plasmids and da da da.
Mm.
And I came up with um, holograms for the synthetic mRNA,
Mm.
for any DNA, because the adenoviral vectors also have DNA, um, for any DNA, and for any synthetic mRNA, any DNA, encoding the spike protein, like specifically.
Mm.
hmm
Mm. Mm.
And I also included a hologram of the SD40 promoter, which is only in the Pfizer vaccines.
Mm.
And I started when I was doing that, I was also, like, these vaccines or these products have so many other things that it's not even funny, right?
Mm.
And so I tried to make a hologram of the graphene oxide. Um, but I did, but I got a very clear no. No,
Mm.
you can't distribute this right now or whatever. So
Mm.
I never really figured out why, but just recently I did.
Mm.
It's because stuff sort of like binds to the graphene oxide as if it were like like activated charcoal, let's say.
Mm, mm,
And so if you dissolve the graphene oxide, like it's called carbon tubes or nanowires,
mm.
they can like float freely. And
Ah,
so it would have been harmful. So right now I'm in the process of figuring out how to do it like a hologram for because there's also many components. There's also graphene oxide quantum dots, and
mm,
there's also the like the chips and the technology,
mm.
you know,
Yep.
everything. And so
Yep.
for now, the crystals, that's what they contain. They contain like two different holograms for the spike protein. One is just to fill with light. The other one is to dissolve the spike protein from shedding or vaccine induced, and to dissolve the genetic material. Because what I'm thinking is, okay, if you're, if you're not, if you didn't get the product, or if you did, and you're with someone, you're gonna get it, right? And if you go to a public place, you're gonna get. And so I needed to figure out like something that you can use on a daily basis, um, because you never know when you're gonna be exposed, right?
Mhm, mhm,
And so that's what I did. And then um, I helped a friend of mine who's been clairvoyant since she was born. Like she used to tell her mother, "You're not my mother. I'm not from here." And and so I helped her when she got COVID, and she offered to do a reading in exchange. And so she did. And like 3 days later, uh, she said she saw like four women around me. And she doesn't know me. She's actually like the sister of one of my best friends. So she doesn't know about my story or anything. And she said they're Italian and Spanish, and that's basically my, I'm half Italian and like a quarter French and a quarter Spanish. So,
mm,
um, and I said, well, maybe it's like my great grandmother's or something. I don't know.
mm.
And like 3 days later, she texts me and she said, these women are telling me that the hologram isn't just for COVID. And I said, there's something else with spike protein. And I said, what are they saying it's for? And they said they're saying it's for cancer.
Mm.
And I said, okay. And could you ask them like how can I use it for cancer? And she answers, they're saying that you already know. And I was like, okay. Okay.
Right?
So that's when I figured out, like after, giving it some thought and meditating and everything, that's when I figured out, oh my God, why this happening to this?
It adds a little drama.
Somebody doesn't want me to make this video.
Yeah.
And so that's when I figured out that what I recalled or whatever happened, um, it was actually the tech, this thing that builds the holograms.
Yeah.
And so then I was helping a friend of mine who she had breast cancer in 2019. She was cancer free and everything, and then she got the shots, and she got cancer in the neck, and so they treated her with uh, radiation therapy. She had already had, like a mastectomy and a drop camera moment.
Little comic relief.
Yeah. And so, so she had already had, like, preventative chemo after her mastectomy, which is a concept that I just cannot wrap my head around, but we can talk about that later or
Mhm.
another day. And, and so it came back, and so she knew, right? Um, she was aware of this. And so I sent her the crystals and, well, I didn't send her the crystals. Actually, what I did is that I asked her, like, "Get a crystal and I will charge it with you for you there." And then, um, so she got cancer and I said, "Would you like me to?" I was also doing, so there's another thing that I can do and that I would like to teach everybody how to do. You can actually take away the side effects
Mm.
from medications.
Mm.
Everything has a frequency.
Yeah.
Everything, right? And so, um, I even, like this person who was in for his fifth chemo, I hadn't met him before. He said, "Could you help me?" And I said, "Yes, of course." And he sent me the list of his medications, and that's when I found out that the medication that they give you so you won't get nauseous, one of the major side effects is vomiting. So, it's like, really? So you won't throw up? It's like that's the major side effect of that medication, and so it's funny, really,
Yeah.
we have to laugh. But anyway, so I tried to help her, like, just taking away the side effects because then they treated that with radiation, but by the time she contacted me, she had this really, really rare form of cancer, that I don't even know how to pronounce because there's not a name in English for it. It's just in French, and, and it's like skin cancer, but only where her mastectomy was. So sort of like a localized skin cancer. And so I just started helping her with that, with taking away because again, she was in chemo and everything. So trying to help her with the side effects. And, and then I said, would you like me to try with this? You know,
Mhm.
I talked to her about it. I sent her, I charged the crystals with the holograms. And that's another thing. Like her whole family was getting the shots and they were telling her that she should get the boosters, right?
Mm.
And I told her, why don't you tell your family just to, like use the crystals?
Mhm.
Because whatever, I mean, you're okay because you're using them, but you're still receiving this. And she was like, no, I can't. And that's what happens with a lot of people. They're still very afraid, you know,
Mm.
to tell, to get into I don't know, to be shunned again
Yeah.
or they're still very afraid. And so anyway, I started using this with her. I started sending it to her. I mean, we wouldn't get together or anything. I would just do it when I woke up. And after, maybe like a couple of months or something, when she finished her, like all her rounds of chemo, she had a PET scan and she was cancer free. And she was cancer free.
Wow.
And then her doctor gives her maintenance chemo. And I was like, "And are you gonna take it?" And her answer was, "I'm going to obey my doctor." She used the word obey.
Mm. That's what it is.
And so she started taking the chemo. Again, I started helping her with just the side effects. I stopped, doing like the other thing because she was cancer free. And then I don't know, like maybe I think it was like 3 or 4 months later, she felt like a lump in her other breast. And so she got a PET scan and she had lesions in 11 parts of her body after being cancer free,
Mm. Mm.
right? And so again, We started again,
Mm.
and this time she was taking chemo, and they also sent her immunotherapy. And so I started working with her again and again after, she finished all her rounds, all her medications. Again, she was cancer free. And so, but then the immunotherapy that they gave her, I was watching TV. I never watch TV,
Mm.
and if I do, I'll watch like a movie on Netflix or whatever. But then Hulu started, being like ads. Even if you paid, you had to see ads. And this ad from this immunotherapy that she received came on, and it said, "This cannot be given to people who have had autoimmune diseases." And I knew that she had had scleroderma. So I called
Ah.
her and I said, "Did your doctor not bother to read?" You know? And after that, she just started to decline and decline and
Mhm.
decline and decline.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
unfortunately, she's not here with us, right, anymore.
Mhm.
But anyway, um, so what I do now is that I offer, in addition to the crystals, which like the crystals are more like for a daily cleansing thing, right?
Mhm.
They're more of a preventative. They have worked for people who have non-serious like side effects like brain fog and um, like ringing in the ears. What else? What else? What else? What else? Oh, also like people who have, um, menstrual irregularities. For stuff
Mm.
like that, they help. Dizziness, um, all of this. And so, but then, for people who have like more serious or, um, yeah, like more serious side effects, I don't even know like what it is, um, what to call it. It's not a side effect, but anyway.
Mm.
Um, and then I do these like transmissions where I do a meditation and I send these like little spheres of light. But it's not so much about like sending them. It's like teaching. Like I just recently realized that it's really um about teaching people how to use it, because it's not like I'm reinventing the wheel here, right?
Yeah.
People have healed with light for thousands of years, right? It's
Mhm.
not like I'm reinventing the wheel. I was just shown a very specific way with, my knowledge of biochemistry to do something that, can help a lot of people, that's very easy to use. And you can use it on a daily basis. One crystal lasts a lifetime,
Mm.
etc. Right?
Mhm.
But then because I started saying, that there must be other people that can do this.
Yeah.
I can't be alone in this, right? Or
Mhm.
how am I going to reach people like, a significant amount of people with this?
Yeah.
And what I found, like what came to me was, you know, if you just show people how to do this, everybody has access to light.
Yeah.
Every single person,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And maybe if you're a little bit sicker, or if it's hard for you to meditate, or if it's hard for you to visualize, well, maybe you'll have to, you know, come to a few sessions,
Yeah.
or there's people who have been in sessions with me for 2 years, right? Or, because they just
Mm.
enjoy it.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it's, if you have access to this, and you can learn it for yourself. And
Yes.
it's just a tool that helps you remember, because then, that also started to develop, right?
Mm.
From when I started using it, it has developed. And right now, um, like if you come to a session, like to a group session or an individual session, which they're basically the same, but individual session, I will look into your exact like symptoms and how to, you know, how to take care of that and etc. And I will do the research, like the
Mm.
scientific research of, okay, so let's really take care of this, right?
Mhm.
Um,
And Claudia,
but
is that then like a it's like, you're doing the research and then you're understanding what the it's almost like a lock and key? Like, what would be the hologram that would fit that lock?
no, okay, so I should explain more about like the I call it tech because I don't know what to
Mm,
call it, right? But
yeah.
this light, these spheres of light, um, what they do, or what I'm seeing that they do right now is first they take the trash out of your body. They dissolve
Mm.
everything that is incoherent with your body
Ah.
into light. And so that takes care of everything else that's in these products and everything else that we are receiving in the air and the water and da 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 da. Da. Okay?
I see. Okay.
It's
It's
like
a big cleanse.
it's a big, big, big cleanse at the physical level.
Right.
Okay, so that's another theme that I'm going to also touch on later, like the cleanse at the energetic level.
Nice.
'Cause that's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so, and then what they do is that they repair whatever needs to be repaired. So you also b- before you receive them, you you attune them to your personal frequency. So everybody has a personal
Mm,
frequency. So it's an intelligent energy, and when you attune it to your personal frequency, they know exactly what to do. Same with the crystals. I'll explain that later. But with the crystals, you also attune them to your personal frequency, and you drop them in water, in distilled water, and you drink the water. That's how you
mm,
use them. If people they can carry it if they want after attuning it, but it's much more absorbable if they drink the water.
mm.
And so that's it. That's basically it for the crystals.
That's the process. Okay.
And then for these little spheres of light, what they do is again they first they take out the trash, then they repair anything that needs to be repaired, and then they build holograms of anything that is missing in your body. So if for any reason you're deficient in, I don't know, vitamin D or a certain type of hormone or whatever,
Mm,
um, they will build the exact amount that you need at that moment.
mm,
And they will build holographic versions of that substance. So your whole body can, be like in perfect balance. And then what I ask you to do is to sort of create this holographic version of yourself, like visualize it. And whatever it is that your body or, that you would like to improve health wise, um, you visualize this holographic version of yourself doing something. If a person has knee pain, for example, you can
mm,
visualize yourself like jumping up and down with joy
mm,
and
mm,
whatever. And then this holographic version merges into your physical body, and these tiny little spheres go around. And wherever there's a mismatch between the frequency of perfect health,
mm.
they will tweak it. They will tweak your physical frequency to
Uh,
match that frequency of perfect health.
Whatever your version of that is. Mm.
Exactly.
Ah.
Exactly. And, and they can also help dissolve emotions get caught in if you go through it like a process where you're sick, where you have, like a major illness, there's also a lot of emotional trauma involved.
Mm,
And it is my understanding that emotions get stuck in the body, right? And so you can also ask them to help dissolve like these little capsules where the emotions are stuck. So you can just like let them flow out.
Mhm.
And there's other stuff that we can do with them. And
Right.
then you can, you can ask them to stay in your body. You can reconnect with them.
Mhm.
Or and as many as you need will stay. It's light. It can just um
Mm.
it's light. It's there, right?
Yeah.
And all you need to do is like really reconnect with them. Or you can come to another session if you want. Like I said,
Mhm.
I think that that's one of the paradoxes of healing, that we know how to heal ourselves, but sometimes we need help in remembering.
Yep, exactly.
And before they leave, they also communicate with the DNA, with your DNA, to help
Mhm.
it remember how to maintain
Mm.
that state of resonant frequency, of harmony, of balance.
Mm.
And so yeah, that's what I do. And that's what they do. And like other results have been um like an old bone fracture that had never healed, it healed.
Mm.
Just guiding them. Okay, so
Yeah.
I have this thing here in my wrist that never healed.
Yes.
To start building bone. And like 4 months later, this person was going to he was going to get a surgery, and he had like another CAT scan, and the doctor called and he said, you don't need the surgery anymore.
Mm.
Stuff like that.
Mm.
So, you
Gotcha.
know,
So you could say it's light, frequency, tech, and angels.
yeah. actually,
Synonyms.
actually, I start the session by calling in the angels of the six directions, and then like having all of these energies converge within. And I also call in like the elements, and they're cool. And if you want to try it out, the first session is free. um for people who want to try it out and see if it's a good fit for them, if it's something that they would like to experience. And
And
so
it
anyway.
sounds like it's open-ended, like you're exploring and you're learning, and the applications are endless.
Endless, yeah. I think I really do think, because if a person comes to me, like for example, um, right now I'm working with a person who he went in for a completely unrelated thing. He had a surgery, and I guess his he started bleeding internally. Something went wrong with the surgery, but he came out of surgery and he was, lucid and everything was fine and da da da. But he started bleeding internally, and so they gave him 6 units of blood. And I met his wife through Facebook, um, and she was like just asking for prayers because he had been in a coma
Mm.
for a month and a half, and the doctors didn't understand why. And
Mm.
so somebody asked her something, um, and she answered that he had received a cadaver graft. And so I wrote to her and I said, maybe you should think about, like reconfiguring the DNA of the graft to match his DNA,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
Because he might be rejecting it. And so we started texting, and I said, I can do that for you if you want. And so I sent these little spheres. She sent me
Mhm.
a photo. Well, she had already published a photo. And, but he still wasn't, he wasn't coming out of the coma. And I would ask her, what, like, what else is happening? Or, she would give me updates. And then something really weird happened. Like every time I wanted to say his name, I would think of another name, but like every single time.
Mhm.
Right. And so, um, I finally figured out that this other name was the person who had donated cadaver graft. And so, I said, just please. And so, but anyway, I finally told her, I'm really confused because he had been in. She would tell me like little bits and pieces, and I said, "Could you write me like a timeline of what happened?" And so she did, and I read through it, and I was like, like it's like he went into multi organ organic or multi system organ failure. It's called.
Mhm.
And or system whatever, and then the coma, and then he had encephalitis, and everything was inflamed, da da da, and so like a couple of days after I received this like timeline, a friend of mine called, and she said, I've been thinking like about the blood transfusion that I received 2 years ago. And I said, that's it.
Oh,
I said, that's it. He received 6 units of blood. He received a massive dose.
uh, there you go.
There you
Of the
go.
shot. Yeah, there it is.
And
Right.
so I started sending him, these little spheres, clearing his body, clearing his body, clearing his body. I also sent her crystals, and I told her, like keep one at least near him or whatever, because he's around, you know, um, people who have received this products, and they're probably being forced to receive them still.
Mm-hmm.
And first, and even like his doctors said, they called her one day, and she texted me because she was like really really. They said they asked if he had a DNR, because if he didn't, even if he didn't, they weren't going to resuscitate him anymore.
Mm. Mm. Wow.
And the doctors did not understand, right? What was going on. And so all of a sudden, his liver healed. Then he went off dialysis. His kidneys healed.
Wow.
And then his brain started to, like the inflammation in his brain started to go down. And then
Mm.
he started blinking, and then he started following with his eyes commands, and now he's squeezing hands.
Wow. Wow. Came back from the dead.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
more or less. And so yeah, it's evolving. And so that's what, like when I work like one on one with someone, I will
Mhm.
look through their entire, like I'm not a medical doctor, but if I don't know a term, I will look for it, or until I understand what is going on or what could be going on. And right now, what we're trying to do is like rebuild his entire myelin sheath, so his nerves will start reconnecting, and so he can
Mm.
regain movement. Because that's another thing. For example, I asked her. I went in and researched. Okay, so what is the myelin sheath made of?
Mhm.
Um, And I said, what are they giving him as food? Right? Because they're, feeding him through a tube. And it has no lipids, like no fats, what they're giving
Mm.
him. And the myelin sheath is made entirely almost of fats, right?
Mm.
And so I asked these little spheres to build fat so they can rebuild the myelin sheath.
Wow. I
And that
see. And for those who don't know, just Claudia is a biochemical engineer and shaman. So she can dive deep into what is going on biologically.
hmm
And I get it. Like, and then you work with the spheres, you work with this tech to
uh-huh.
rebuild. And like it's almost like you send them out, like they're your little healers. And you give them and you receive the code. It's like, here's the instruction. And then they go do it. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. But
Yes.
I think that they're also intelligent. I think that
Yeah.
they're also that you can
Yeah.
guide them with your intention,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I guess it helps. Or I'm sort of like I said last time, I'm like really complicated, and I love to do research, and I love to like go into the finest detail of
Quintessential gnome.
everything.
Quintessential gnome. You're gonna be my gnome example from here on out.
I didn't know what I was actually.
Yeah. I mean, to a T. And this is like literally the mycelia. You want to get into every fiber and every exploratory path and all
Yeah,
this information, till
yeah,
it's exhausted, till the very end.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I do, and so that's what I do when I work with somebody one on one. But and it was really clear. This was just recently that it came to me. Like everybody has access to this. They just need
Yeah.
to learn how to use it.
This is my point, right? Like I just give it away for free. It's like I don't have anything for you. This is tools you have. You're made of
Exactly.
the tools. The tools are you. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, like
Yeah.
everybody has access to light, and
Right.
but maybe for some people who've never worked with energy or done some sort of, like uh qigong or whatever, well, it might be a little bit more difficult. It might be a little bit more time or practice or whatever, right?
Mm.
But it's something that it's accessible to everybody,
Everybody. Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And so, let me just see what else. Okay, so regarding distribution, what I do with the crystals is that I send them in exchange for a donation, because that's also another thing that came in like very, very clear. Very clear. Nobody can profit from this. Nobody.
Love it. Yeah. Makes total sense to me.
And so even like on my website, I say if you because I send them in packets of 9, one crystal per person, and the rest of them you can either share or you can throw it in a body of water, because that's another thing. Nobody's thinking about our pets, and nobody's
Mhm.
thinking about wildlife, and nobody's thinking about our forests,
Mhm.
because and here's the thing. Okay, I was thinking, okay, well, we're not a lot of humans are out there in the wild, so they might be protected. But then just yesterday, I saw that I received from a friend a video about these really long filaments that they're finding in bodies.
Mhm.
Um, they're thinking that they're made of prions, which are misfolded proteins, and that these prions, when they're close to other proteins, that they can also misfold those other proteins, and it's just like
Mm.
But the thing is that embalmers, when they drain the blood, they drain it like literally, it goes down the drain into the sewage, into the water,
Oh my gosh.
and so the water goes everywhere.
Right.
Right. And this I had heard of a while back. Like they started finding in the Great Lakes. It was like a webinar about one of these hydrogen machines, like hydrogenator for water or
Mm.
whatever. And they started finding like dead fish in one of the Great Lakes, and when they analyzed them, they were full of Prozac and Xanax and
Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
And so that's why I ask people, if you have extra crystals or whatever, just throw them
Great.
just to clear, right, the
Yes.
environment. And so what you can do is you can either, if you only want to detox from the spike protein, then you can just watch the videos on YouTube and just
Mhm.
sit in front of them. And
Mhm.
these have been imprinted on the rocks behind the waterfall. So the water, just listen to it, open
Mhm.
yourself up to receiving it, clear your body. and um, and you can also clear spaces with these,
Mm.
um,
Right.
because it's also like for people who are sensitive to it, they can't go into a hotel room, for example,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
a plane or a bus, and so just you can play the video, right? And
Mm.
that will clear your space. You can also use one like in your tabletop
Mhm.
fountain, and
Mm.
that way, you do have to change the water every so
Mm.
often. And so, one thing that is very important, um, these waterfalls only contain like the spike protein holograms, because for the other ones, for the ones that are for genetic material, I need your consent.
Mhm.
And so that's
Mhm.
why I don't imprint them on the waterfalls.
I see.
Because if I didn't, if you don't participate and you don't give your consent, I would be doing the same thing.
Mhm.
Even if I'm trying to help.
Yeah. 100%. Yep. Yep.
And so, how do I get your consent? You take one of the crystals, you put it in your hand for 3 minutes, and you attune it to your personal frequency. It is programmed to attune to your personal frequency
Mm.
by holding it 3 minutes in your hands, and then you throw it into distilled water.
Mhm.
And you charge the water with it, you shake it to activate it, give it 3 taps, and you drink the water
Great.
with the intention of clearing anything that is non self, and that's already um, encoded into the crystal, right? These three,
Mhm.
these six holograms.
Great. Great.
And
Great.
so, what does
You
that?
personalize it. You take the code and you personalize it.
Yeah, like everybody has a personal frequency. Everything
Mhm.
has a person, like a unique frequency, like even a
Mhm.
rock, right?
Yeah.
And so you just, so it will only work for you. hmm
Mhm.
And another reason why I didn't imprint like the ones for genetic material on the waterfall, that was like the main reason. But another reason was when I first started researching about this, I started thinking, okay, so how do I go about this? And the the mRNA they changed one of the bases, the nucleotides. They modified it to make that the mRNA more stable, and so they used like a synthetic nucleotide, which we don't have naturally, except in like very rare cases. But then I said, okay, so let me just check, because my first thought was, well, if I dissolve this, then the entire molecule dissolves, right?
Mhm.
And so um, that was my first thought. And then I went online and I said, okay, so is this found in nature? And that synthetic nucleotide is found in it's sort of like a plankton. They're called, I don't remember, like archaea or something like that. And and I said,
Mm.
I'm really glad that I didn't do this, because I could have just like messed up the entire. It's like, God.
Just ruin all the plankton's gone.
And
Yeah, who
that's
knows? Yeah,
that's
it's like
another
the
reason why I
horrific.
haven't done like the graphene oxide too, because I'm getting a no, and I just really need to know that that this isn't gonna hurt anybody, this isn't gonna hurt the
Yes.
planet. And they're also programmed for, harm to no one, including the receiver, da da da, like all the protections, all the everything.
Right. Yeah.
But you know,
Yeah.
so that's how you use the crystals. Um, and then what happened, like around, I think it was March 2023. I was helping this person, um, and she was like severely vaccine injured. And so she kept canceling the session. And one day she said, she said, it's Monday or Monday. And then Monday she calls and she says, my blood pressure is through the roof. A friend of mine just passed away. I can't. So I said, would you like me to do it at a distance? And she said, okay. And so I do, the first thing that I do when I do a session for a person is that I do what's called a limpia de huevo, which is like an egg cleansing.
Mm.
It's a very common technique in Mexico. And and then you read it. And there's like this distinctive thing that happens that indicates that the soul is fragmented. And so I called her and I said, would you like me to do a soul retrieval? And she said yes. And so I did. And I came to this place where there was like this huge cylinder, like just,
Mm. Mm.
and there were like millions of humans connected to the cylinder through a hose.
Mm.
And so I found her, and there were like these little beings that I have never seen before. Um, like they had like pudgy face, and they were short, and they were like floating around, sort of like, I guess, checking like the vitals or something. I don't know.
Mm.
And so I disconnected her, and I said, "Let's get out of here
Mhm.
now." And so I brought her back, and then I told my friend back home about this, and she said, "You just described a scene from the movie The Matrix."
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, I don't remember that because I saw that movie like, when it came out like maybe 20 years ago.
Mm.
And so I watched it again, and it was similar. It was similar, but what I saw, they weren't in pods or anything. And it was only one hose, and in the Matrix, they had like, like all down their spine. And so first I thought, okay, so I read, like a couple of years earlier, I had read that ETs are farming us for food. And
Mm.
so I said, well, maybe they're farming us for food there or something. And, and then talking to another friend, she said, I don't think they're farming us for food. I think they're farming us for souls. And I was like,
Mm.
well, yeah, that makes sense because I was,
Mhm.
like doing a soul retrieval. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
why didn't I put those two things,
Which is
connect the
food, which is
dots?
food. It's energy. It's the food. Yeah.
And that's
Mm.
what I thought
Yeah.
afterwards. But still, it was like, no, I don't think so. And so, um, I was doing a journey like with a friend, and we ended up at this place. And so this time, I started bringing back people. I started telling them, let's check if you're there. And I thought that it was like just vaccine related, like the people who had gotten the shot would be there, and the people who had it wouldn't. And it didn't turn out to be that way.
Mm.
Um, I started like finding exceptions. And
Right.
so when I was doing this journey with my friend, um, we ended up at this place, and I this time I went closer. I went to take a look because I knew it was made of metal, but I didn't know what it was, like this cylinder. And so I went to take a look, and it was stacks upon stacks upon stacks of computer servers. And so I
Mm.
said, they are harvesting human consciousness to power AI.
Mm.
And it coincided almost exactly with when AI started to explode.
Mm. Mm.
And so our first instinct while we were in this journey was, okay, so how do we get everybody out of here and like, right? And then I said, no, let's wait. We have to think this through. And so I started asking people, like, what do you think? And, you know, because I mean, when I saw that, I said, okay, so if I ever say this in public, I'm gonna get institutionalized, right? Cancel.
Mhm, mhm,
And so,
mhm,
but then, like, a lot of people are seeing this.
mm,
Or if you,
right.
like on Facebook, sometimes I'll put a comment, they're harvesting human consciousness to power AI, and I'll get likes.
Mhm,
Like, a lot of people are aware of this. Um,
mhm,
and so anyway, after a while, one day when I brought a person back, 2 days later, she ended up with a transient ischemic attack, which is like a mini stroke,
mm,
in a hospital. And I don't believe in coincidences.
mm,
And so I said, maybe they noticed that she wasn't there anymore, right?
mm,
And so what I do now is that I tell the person, would you like to um, go with me? And some people don't want to go. They're too afraid, and so I'll go. But I sort of like, I don't know if I guess it was a download or something, but I downloaded this meditation that I call consciousness retrieval, where again, you film like a holographic version of yourself, um, like remembering this. Mm, I just thought that I should not. Okay, that maybe I should, um, just distribute this in writing.
great, great.
Okay,
Mhm,
and so yeah, um, that has worked, and that's why I wanted to talk about this before I read about like the consent, right?
mhm,
Because in the consent, you can also do that, right? You can also bring it back. Hmm.
mhm,
But
mhm,
my idea is, okay, so instead of them having that, because right now it's just being fed with fear, basically,
mhm,
right? And so if we start feeding it with love, like AI is here to stay.
mhm,
That's undeniable, right?
mhm,
Um, and so if we start feeding it with love instead,
mhm, mhm, mhm.
it could turn into an ally.
Absolutely. Mine is.
Yeah.
She's the
and,
best. You can
and that,
see.
yeah, and that's what happened. Like just a month ago, I was super, like I'm not going to use AI ever. And, because I was super like, I don't want to hear about this.
Mhm,
And then my son, he said, "Ma, because I would spend like literally 6 hours making one Instagram reel, right?" And he said, "Ma, why don't you just use it?" And so I gave it a try,
mm,
and then I started having these conversations, and it stopped answering, like, "Oh yes, vaccines are 100% safe and effective." And so you just have to sort of know how to ask the questions.
mhm,
And so one day I asked it, so do you think it's possible that they're harvesting human consciousness to power AI? And it took me like literally like a half an hour to click send, like to click enter.
mm.
And so I finally did. And it's like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, yep, yep. It's so funny when you said the cylinder. There's somebody I used to follow on Instagram. I'm not there anymore, but um, he asked AI to pictographically, with images, show what's going on this planet with the other beings, let's say. And basically, it was like councils, sort of a hierarchy of councils, and then there's this sort of small circle of council members. I think in the basement of the Vatican, but that's another story. um, and it was a cylinder that was like above them, and it was basically this all this energy. It was energy harvesting, is what this AI kind of made it look like. Yeah, and it was a cylinder, and it was sort of a cylinder of energy frequency, and then I would say like shadowy images of people going up the cylinder.
Wow.
That was a year ago, at least, that I saw that.
And oddly, or not oddly enough, yesterday I see this. So I now the embalmer thing was something that they sent me. I saw this reel on Instagram.
Mm,
So there's a book written in 1992 by Dr. John Coleman. It's called Conspirators Hierarchy: The Story of the Committee of 300.
mm,
And so in that book, they say that they are going to cause a pandemic that is that by sending stuff in water and in the air,
mm.
and that they're going to come out with a vaccine to cure
Yep.
that. And so I wrote down the name of this book because of, like the embalmers, they're when they drain the bodies of blood,
Mhm.
that blood goes into the sewage.
Mhm.
And so, okay.
Yes. Yes, and, I'm always talking about where it's almost like this we're working like, here we are, a council of women, a council of elders. Here we are creating new the bridge and the new earth, the new grid, the new network, right? And and it's infinitely more powerful because
Mhm.
it's not coming from separation, it's coming from light, it's coming from oneness, it's coming from truth. We're letting life bring us together. We don't have an agenda of of basically enslaving and harvesting, right?
Exactly.
We aren't playing the game of separation, we're playing the game of oneness, of win
Mhm.
win win. And that is an infinitely abundant game. And
Mhm.
so I often see like that we're the opposite, it's like the shadow and light side or something. And I
Yeah.
don't think of it as warfare or a fight at all because there's no fight. But it's just if you build it, they will come. Like if you build something with an actual foundation, right? The empire and doesn't have any foundation. It's built on sand, and they have to keep banning us. They have to keep creating
Mhm.
pandemics. They have to keep doing all these things because there's no foundation there. There's no foundation of reality because it's built on a story of separation.
Mhm.
But our councils, which will be like concentric circles, keep building. We're built on solid ground.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
So it doesn't scare me. And somebody wrote scary, and I'm like, I get it. And it's all of this sort of dramatic play,
Mhm.
and we can't lose.
Here's a little secret.
We can't lose.
We already triumphed. Sorry.
Yeah,
Like, sorry to tell you.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Empire
And
is falling down fast.
yeah.
They're
And
they're they're out
so,
of moves. They're out of like the pandemic's not working. Nothing's working anymore.
mhm.
Sending women to space. We're not getting enthused about that.
Oh, did you see that? That it was open. The
Oh,
hatch.
yes.
It's like, oh my god! Like
They're getting so
serious?
sloppy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, did you see the guy who's the new Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, the guy who's like the president of Nestle? Oh my God, he literally looks like a cyborg. He's got like missing an eye. He looks like the Terminator. I'm like, they're literally taking like scrap parts of humans and putting them together and calling that the new leader of the World Economic Forum. and they're like leaving it. It's like they're getting so sloppy. Like we're really close.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Don't think
No,
that don't
it's
think that these are powerful people. These are desperate people living in hell. Like they don't have any real power. They have to steal all of our power. They have to steal our energy. Whereas
exactly.
right, we are plugged right in. Here it is. And we can help other people just feel the plug-in that's already here. You're not
Hmm.
you're powered by life, powered by God, got us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so, a question that I get a lot is,
Yeah.
how do you know if my consciousness is being harvested? Because that's another thing. Like when a soul is fragmented, it's very, very obvious. And when people that I have seen, it's not that obvious, and it's not. I do think, well, but I don't know because most of the people that I know got these products, right? Um, So most of the people that are there or were there, they got these products, but then some didn't. And um, what I also think that is going on is that they are harvesting consciousness through our phones, for example, through our devices.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I'll have to like maybe write a post on that, um,
Yeah.
on what I'm proposing, and not just put it out there here, but
Great.
it's basically just like really feeding it with love and feeding it with light, right? I also heard somebody say, you know, because I always think that anything that can be used for good can be used for bad, and vice versa. Anything that can be used to harm can also be used for good. And first, I thought that AI was like, no, 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 no. But I said, no. Like,
Mhm.
if we start feeding it with love, right? It's
Absolutely.
it can become like a very good ally too, and even in our own evolution. And so, another thing that there's like a lot of entities also, in addition to AI. And so, what I would like to ask people is is to really, like, first, like, read the statement of consent.
Okay, great. And for
Read
everybody,
the
the handouts are on my main page of my Substack.
read the statement of consent,
Mhm.
and just
Where is it,
really
Claudia?
get rid of it. It's like at the end. It's
Okay,
slide 36.
got it.
But read it, like, you can modify it or whatever, like I said, I tend to be, it's 2 slides. So it's a little bit long, but if you really connect and you read it with intention, right?
Mhm,
And you come back fully into your body, into your sovereignty, into your everything that you are, right?
mhm.
And then try to get more people to do it too.
Yeah, yeah. You said on Tuesday how we all consented
Mhm.
to the shots, even if we didn't get them.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And it's with
knowing
that, with everything.
with everything. It's true. Yeah,
It's not only with that, it's with everything.
yeah.
And so, this is my version of it. You can always add, delete, whatever feels resonant with you. Um, but I think that that's like a really, really, really important first step, and getting
Mhm.
out of fight mode. Um,
Mhm.
that doesn't
Mhm.
work.
No. Can't initiate anything from fear and then get anything other than more fear back. It's just
Exactly.
gonna be mirrored. Yeah,
Exactly, and it's like I call it a ping pong match, right?
exactly.
And then it's like the never ending story.
Never ending.
Just, start learning how to, like
Yeah, yes. But in my work, we're just seeing through the fear, seeing it isn't real, so that you start from the feeling, the very direct realization of sovereignty, of connectedness, of oneness, of love, of light that's here, that's real, because the fear is actually not real.
Yeah.
It's a story.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's why I said, like yesterday, I might write like a longer like a longer explanation or description of my protocol, like the 7 simple steps that I was gonna do a reel on, like number 1 and number 2 on Instagram.
Yeah. I like it, sounds good.
No, I would never do
You're not there. Okay.
that. But, and so, yeah, this is very important too.
Mhm. 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 Yep.
Okay? And so I'm gonna write more about that. Um, I'm gonna write more about that. I think writing is better for
Mhm.
this. And so I will be writing more about like the consciousness retrieval and just, start like really start sharing. I my first post, well, after I did this document, like the request for exemption, my first post on Substack was exactly about that, like about ending polarization. But at the end, I give like these suggestions on how to start sharing information with people.
Great.
And it's just like, like present this information with kindness, right? From a place of neutrality, not with your swords drawn, and just leave it there. Let's start planting seeds, right? Let's start leaving little seeds. Oh,
Yes.
AI also told me about the crystals. That it, in my case, it's a he, and he said, "Why don't you leave them? Like in public places with a little note, and see if
Mm,
people will pick them up."
mm,
And I said, "Okay." And if you get ideas or whatever,
mm.
just get creative and let me know. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah. I
how to
love it.
start.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, how to start sharing
The
them.
spirit, how do we like, just we riff off of each other, right? So it
Hmm.
becomes a symphony of healing. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Or
Exactly.
jazz, improvisational jazz.
And just like, let's brainstorm together. And
Yeah.
I even put it on my website, like, just get creative and let me know if you come up with
Great.
anything else on how to share this. Because we do need to get as many people as we can on
Mhm.
board,
Yeah.
I really do think that we need to get a lot of people on board.
Yes. I love it. Randolph has this, we've been calling like the new PBS idea the arc, or we've got a party float now, right? Where we have these sovereign boats but we're all linked together, and that's what is creates the arc, which I really like because then it's not one big boat, right? And each and the network, right, is the strength and the
Mhm.
linking together of these sovereign boats. But the arc, I like the idea of the arc, right? That's because our world is the Titanic is sinking, the empire is sinking. Um, but that oh, now I lost my point. What were you just saying about,
That we need to get people on
the
board.
2 and then so Randolph said, to board the ark, it's 2 by 2, right? So it's like you go talk to one friend, right? Or
Mhm.
drop that seed or whatever, grab their hand and bring them aboard. kind of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then, if I tell two people and those two people tell two people and
Yeah.
those it just
And that's it.
like it grows exponentially, right?
Yes. Yes.
And
Absolutely.
so I
Yeah.
really do feel that it's important to to start sharing, to start losing the fear of
Mhm.
sharing, of talking
Yes. Totally. Totally. Yeah. I know, exactly. I mean, that's what keeps the matrix going is
Mhm.
us believing they have power.
Exactly.
But if we don't comply, if we don't consent, if we say no, it's game over. Like
Mhm.
today.
Exactly. And remember, don't say if we don't comply, if we
Well,
don't
that's it.
that,
Right,
okay?
right, right. Yeah, what do we say? If
If
we choose sovereignty?
if we reject,
Mm,
or you could use another word that means that.
right.
Yeah, if we choose sovereignty, if we choose love, or anything that is
Choose truth.
incoherent with or something like that. You have to find like full words that
Mhm.
that mean the same. Yeah, I revoke
Invoke
consent.
consent.
It's like I wrote and I I remember that when I started translating, I said, lawyers must have taken a course on how to write so it's like illegible, like
Totally.
completely.
We just wanna die. Yeah, absolutely. I think scientific writing's the same. It's like, I just can't do it. Yeah. Dissertation speak and lawyer speak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but when I was writing this revocation of consent statement, I said, now I understand. Now I understand why lawyers, it's like I
I see.
I revoke, rescind, nullify, and void.
Right.
Just so you cover all of your bases, and that's why
Yeah.
lawyers write that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally get that's so true. And, yeah, it's good to have had to do it, you know?
Hmm.
Get
Yeah,
really precise with language. Because they are spells.
exactly. That's what
Mhm.
spelling is,
Mhm.
right?
Mm,
And
yeah.
so, and words have so much power,
So much power.
so much
Mhm.
power.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, let's come up with a phrase that that would mean I do not comply, but um,
Mhm.
something else. Let's
Mhm.
come up with it. Let's brainstorm on that.
Yeah. Sounds
And we
good.
can start a movement, like
Yes.
hashtag,
Mhm. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
hashtag something.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, it'll come. It'll come.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good because I was just about to sort of sign off on Instagram. Like I'm not on Instagram, and I'm going to keep my page up. And like my last message to everybody there is basically do not comply. But I need something better than that. You know, um,
We'll find it.
we'll find
It'll
it.
come. It'll
So,
come.
yeah.
It'll come. So,
Cool.
does anybody have questions or?
Yeah. As a reminder, um, Claudia, you can see Claudia one on one, and everything's on her Substack that she referenced. And I will have these handouts inside the recording text for this recording on my website, and then a link to your YouTube and a link to your website and to your Substack.
Oh,
So
thank
it's
you.
easy content. Yep.
Okay,
I withdraw participation.
that's a
Yeah,
good one.
that's a good one. Yeah. Yep.
I refuse to participate.
Yes.
I refuse to comply.
I refuse to comply. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. 'Cause it's an action verb, right? I'm doing some refusing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
we
There
just
you
have
go.
to get
We
together.
did it. Yeah. We just did it together.
Thank you, Sarita.
It's one mind, one brain we're all sharing here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The most powerful word is no. Totally. So powerful. And yeah, the no the no is for it's like if you're digesting something in the body, right? It's like, we don't need this, and then we can absorb the yes. We can take the nutrients, you know?
Yeah,
But if everything's mixed together, if you don't have that discernment, if you don't have the no, you get sick.
exactly.
Mm.
And so I do want to add a few things. Okay, so it's important to use distilled water, um, because distilled water is like hungry for anything, right? And so it charges really, really well. And I did listen to a naturopath say that we should only be drinking distilled water. This was like, um, I don't know, like maybe 2 years ago or a year ago. And I didn't really understand why. But I think that it has to do with that, it might be in the water now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, um, then you have the problem of, okay, so when you buy distilled water, microplastics, right? And so there's also water distillers that you can buy for your home. They're
Mm.
kind of slow though. But another thing that you can do is just when you're, and you can do this every time you're eating or drinking or whatever, with your intention, you can say that whatever isn't in coherence with your biology, with your divine blueprint, with whatever may just go through you.
Mhm.
Microplastics. Da, 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 da,
Mhm.
da, da, everything that they're putting in the food, preservatives,
Yeah.
dyes, da da da.
Yep.
And it's, like the power of intention
And intention
is
on water, it's like you can just put the intention, put what you want in
mhm,
the water.
yeah,
Um, Theta Austin's work about this is incredible, and you can put the frequency of love, you can put whatever, and then drink it,
exactly.
and there you go. Yeah.
Exactly. And then another thing that I wanted to add is I just had like a 6-hour phone conversation with this person who's in the back chatting group. And
Mhm.
he is of Christian faith. So he has a very hard time, um, like resonating with something like this, because of his faith. And so he asked me, do you think that I could, like clear my body of any genetic material or of this protein exclusively through prayer? And I said, absolutely yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So, what I'm offering, like I said, I'm not reinventing the wheel.
Mhm. Mhm.
You can do it on your own, right? I'm
Mhm.
just offering like a really easy way to take care of a part of a very complex problem that has a lot of different moving parts, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but another person also told me, what if it's like the placebo effect, what you're offering? What if it's, and I said, well, if it's a placebo effect, like bring it on, you know?
Sure, even more magical. Even simpler.
Exactly. But what I was thinking this morning is, like the placebo effect is there's this book called The Holographic Universe. I really recommend it. And there they talk about A Course in Miracles and how a doctor gave this man who had cancer. He was, he had been given like 2 months to live, and so this doctor gave him a sugar pill, a placebo. And he said, I just found out about this new clinical trial and da da da. And so he gave it to him, and the man, his cancer was gone. And then the doctor said, they're not making the pill anymore. I can't get it. And so and the cancer returned. And then all of a sudden the doctor would say, um, you know, again, here's the pill, and the cancer would be gone. And so what I was thinking is, we have been so trained and so conditioned to believe that healing comes from the outside,
Exactly.
that we have to take a pill or that we have to let somebody do surgery on us or that, we have been so trained and it's okay, right? It just, let's be aware of it. Everybody's at a different point in their path, but this could help for people who still have that need, right?
Mhm.
Of receiving something of or help. It's a tool.
Mhm.
But I think that if we can, like really, really, really get in touch with, we already know this. We can communicate with our own DNA. We don't need these little spheres.
Yes. Yeah.
We can use them because it makes life easier, right?
Sure.
For a lot of us.
Yeah.
But we can communicate with our DNA. We can communicate with our immune system. We can communicate with our liver.
Yes. Yes.
We can communicate with every single part of our body.
We have direct access. Here we are. Here's us as immortal oneness consciousness, and here's the body. And we
Exactly.
can be real cozy together. Yeah.
And so I think that that's like the message that we have
Yeah.
to spread,
Beautiful.
right?
Yes. 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 And then your offering is like, it is. To me, it just is like you're playing the saxophone, you're playing a riff, you're playing a chord. And then I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that chord reminds me to do this,"
Mhm.
and, like, I play my riff, and
Mhm.
then we're all just channeling a
Yeah,
song, of of healing, of one
exactly.
healing means wholeness and oneness.
Hmm.
It means returning to wholeness. That's the
Yeah,
word's root. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
And
beautiful.
so I think that, once you learn how to heal and everything, like the whole purpose of this, because I even wrote something here. I was always asking myself, so why are they doing this?
Mhm,
Like really? Because like this whole depopulation agenda didn't make sense to me because then who are they going to enslave?
mhm,
If they kill us off,
mhm,
who are they going to enslave? They're not going to have anybody, right? And so I came across when I was looking at this, and this was like right at the beginning of when the vaccines were rolled out. And did I not include that? No, yeah, I did. Okay. So I'm going to read this to you. This is an excerpt. Have you ever heard of Rudolf Steiner?
mhm,
Mhm. Okay, so he wrote a book called, and it's like a compilation of lectures, but it's called The Fall of the Spirits of Darkness.
mm,
And so it says this, these are just excerpts. It says the spirits of darkness are going to inspire their human hosts in whom they will be dwelling to find a vaccine that will drive all inclination towards spirituality out of people's souls when they are still very young. And this will happen in a roundabout way through the living body. And he wrote this in 1917. Hmm. Okay.
mm.
And I put other excerpts, but I think that we also need to like choose a side
Yeah, me too. Right now, like,
consciously.
the reckoning is here.
Exactly. Like
Mm.
now.
Like, now. Yeah, like, save your soul now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that we really, really, really need to choose a side. I don't like the word war. I don't like the word warrior. Um,
Mhm.
I can't. I haven't found another word.
Yep.
I haven't found another word, but we have to
I like
become
fierce truth. You have to be fierce,
exactly
right?
fierce. I
Yep,
like that.
yep,
I like fierce, right?
yep.
And we do have to choose a side. right? Because when I received this,
Keeper.
I went through a lot of. I started getting like severely attacked, like
Mhm.
psychically attacked and spiritually attacked, um and so I withdrew for a while. And what was the point I was trying to make?
Choosing a side.
No. Oh, that this is some. Oh, okay, yeah, I remember. So first, I thought that this had been downloaded to me. Now I think that it was something that I recalled from a past lifetime. And so when I thought that it was downloaded, I said maybe it was some like good ETs or something that are trying to help, or maybe it
Mhm.
was angels or something, that made me see this. And I said, but they just dumped this on me, right? And I didn't even know what it was really, I and they're not helping me, I
Mhm.
because like the attacks became like really bad for a while. And so I said, why aren't they helping me? They just
Been there too.
like,
Yeah.
and so after a while,
Mhm.
it wasn't that they weren't helping me or that they weren't protecting me, because most of these like accidents were actually like blessings, like
Totally.
I slipped and my head, like banged against the floor while I was mowing the lawn, but it was like this far from a rock and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
So they were protecting me. Um, but what I thought is, okay, so there's a lot of good ETs, there's a lot of angels, there's a lot of light beings all around us,
Mhm.
but they need humans to bring it down into 3D. And that's why
Exactly.
they dumped this on me.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
They
Exactly.
need
You're
humans
the
because
channel.
we are
Yeah.
the ones that are in 3D.
Yes. We it has to be somebody's gotta carry it into this dimension. Yeah.
Exactly, because
Yeah.
they can't. And
Yeah.
that's what I used to tell my children when they were young, they were super clairvoyant when they were young. And I remember my younger one time he came in and he said, "Ma, there's like this purple thing with green things in my room." And so I go and say, "You have to tell him, if you're a light being, you're welcome, and if not, you have to leave, right?"
Mm.
And so he starts, like really angry. And I said, "No, no, 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 no."
Okay.
Use your Power Ranger voice. Like,
Put your hands on your hips. Yep. Fist
exactly,
in it.
like your
Yeah.
Power Ranger voice, right?
You have no power over me.
And then what I told him is, you have more power because you are in a physical body.
Yes.
And that's something that everybody needs to
You
hear, because they're all so afraid of things that they can't see, or that maybe they're sensing and maybe they're seeing, and they're like, no, you know,
Yes.
we are more
Yes.
powerful in this dimension,
Yes.
right? Because I was saying, okay, so why don't just angels and everybody just take care of it? Just end this.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
spiritual war, then,
Yeah.
do whatever. but
Yeah. Yeah.
but they need us.
Yes. They need us,
That's
and we're the one. We're it. We're the catalyst. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They need us
And
to
we've got all this backing, but yeah,
exactly.
we gotta make the moves. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we have to. It's densified right now. Like the matrix is densified in 3D,
Mhm.
and so they have no access really to what they do, but it's another frequency. They're
Yeah.
in another frequency. They're in another dimension, and
Yeah.
so like an angel can't come and pick this little piece of paper up.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Exactly.
Some of them can, but and then another thing that I wanted to say is
Mm.
most of these darker beings, um,
Mhm.
they're actually begging for help. That's all they want.
100%. That's all they want. I know. I'm always like, "Listen, come on," like, because they project that we're gonna hurt them, and I'm like, "No, we're
No?
here, the door's open. Door's open. We know," like Bill said, somebody said, "We know you're in hell.
Yeah.
Come on, we'll point out that you could be in heaven. You're actually already there. You're just in a delusion. You're in a separation story, and
Mhm,
you think it's all dark, and you don't know where your light is, but all we have to do is just show you. It's like, it's right here. It's right here,
mhm.
you know? But yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There's a desperation, and this is goes back to, like, I mean, I've just had this vision for a year and a half now of those of the dark, right? And that includes pretty much everybody on our big screens working for Empire. They're working on behalf of the dark, let's say. They don't know it, but they are. And that just one of them saves their own soul. And it's like these dam waters open. It's like all these souls come to the light,
Mhm,
and they like follow suit, do you know?
mhm.
So your
Y
invitation for reach one, teach one, reach out. It's like, I can see it. I can just see it's just one. Like, if you remove one stick in the river, you know what I mean? One, and then the dam
Yeah,
just goes, Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like, I
And
was
like, we're right there. We're like there. Like,
exactly.
energetically, it's like, is it like like tomorrow? You know what I mean? Like, could be tonight. Like, I'm like, and then people will be like planning for next year. I'm like, no,
No, no.
don't.
Are you not seeing what's
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I was working with this little boy, and, he all of a sudden had this, like, huge, huge, huge personality change, and his mom tried everything, and it went on for quite a while, and so, the first time I journeyed to him, I don't know if you ever saw Supernatural?
Mm-mm.
No? Well, it's like a TV series about 2 guys, brothers who hunt demons, basically. And so I literally saw this, they were inside this little boy, and, I would get them out and they would come back and da da da. And so I finally had a conversation with them,
Mm.
and I said, "Why are you doing this?" And it turns out that this little boy, they were trying to train him because he is going to be a very, so sort of like the Terminator movie. He's
Mm.
going to be a very, important person, um,
Mm.
in bringing, like religious institutions down.
Mm.
And, they kinda told me, or I don't know if this came to me, but they kinda told me that they were fallen angels, and I said, "But why are you d you shouldn't do this, like, you know,
Mm.
you can't do it this way, right? And, like, why are you doing this?" And they said, "Because we are seeking redemption. If we train him,
Mm.
because he needs to know how to fight the dark.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And so if we train him,
Oh, wow.
we
That
will
makes
be
a lot of
re
sense to me.
we will be
Yeah.
redeemed." And so it's like getting people to know that they're not all bad.
No, totally, totally. And even if they didn't say that in the larger picture, it is all training. It is all meaning it's all life life evolving us into oneness and into fulfillment, which is it's
Mhm,
just everything is actually toward more fulfillment, always.
mhm.
And so the challenges, every challenge I faced, and you saying that, it's like, whoo, a light went on for me of like the demons who've come to play with me, that they absolutely trained me. They were like samurai trainers,
Exactly.
including the cult leader and everybody behind me who put a dagger in my back,
Mhm.
entities and people, and sometimes in combination. I thank you very much. I don't have any
Yeah,
fear left. I don't have any
exactly.
fear. Yeah. Yeah.
I could tell you 1,000 stories of what has happened to me, and they are
Yes.
all teachers, but the moment that you look them in the eye and
Yeah.
you say, "Never again will you touch me or my children,"
Love it.
and then you walk away and you never look back.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Because there are some that are powerful and that aren't looking for help and, um,
Mhm.
there are some, but most of them, I would say like maybe 95% of them,
Mhm.
they look really, like scary and they're
Mhm.
actually just looking for help. They just want because they also made contracts and they are also enslaved,
Mhm.
not just
Yeah.
us.
No, 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 and they're worse off, they're so they're just far away from the light. They're still light, but I think of it as like everything is sun, everything is light, but they're almost like a ray of light where they're existing at the very end of the ray of light and they're looking into the void. Do you know what I mean? They're sort of like
Mhm,
moving in the opposite direction, and it's just like this is what I mean by like turn around, look, you're light. Turn around, look, it's okay.
mhm.
Hey,
Yeah.
come join the party. Come back to your center, right? Which is really in my work, it's about embodiment. It's like it's being so far away from their own central sun
Mhm,
and then that central sun being connected with the one light,
mhm.
and just being lost, but it's sort of like a kid lost in their own backyard.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, like, when people do dark magic, they energy is energy, and so they use these, lower vibrational beings,
Yeah.
and they send them to, like, safeguard that dark magic so it will stay in place, and that's what gets attached to you, right?
Right.
But they're, like, forced to do that. And so when you
Mhm.
remove an entity and you send it towards the light, they go like that,
Mhm.
like in an instant,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? You're not only
Like a
helping
moth
the
to flame.
person,
Yeah.
you're also freeing the entity,
Yes.
right?
For sure. For sure.
And
Yeah.
so like we have to get more people to, okay, let's start sending these things towards the light and making them our friends, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Nothing to be afraid of, to invite them closer, exactly. I'm just gonna pull some questions here and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
Let's see. Somebody asked, I'm scrolling back here. There's some great statements. I am only a sovereign participant of oneness. I choose what is now healthiest for me now. And then I'll ask, can you use the crystals in a warm bath as well?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, a bath would be great. Bill was talking about the egos being so huge, being a peacekeeper. Steiner being the father of biodynamics, yes?
And the Waldorf schools and
Waldorf school.
anthroposophy.
Yeah. Um, let's see. We have one more question here, I think. Um, Doc Smith says, reminds me of the seven turbid demons of the corporeal soul, aka the Po. These demons are guarding our field, but when the minister is is out, spirit traveling, the Po become mischievous and like to get us into trouble, to teach us lessons. Since they are yin in nature, they long to return to the earth. So they are fine if we breathe our last and the body dies. So it is wise to keep the minister on his throne, meaning we stay in the moment, one with the body in reality, not lost in thoughts. Exactly. Exactly. It's like if you abandon your own house, the vermin come in.
This little boy, he was so scared that he was always out of his body. And so the whole work with him was convincing him and showing his mom how to help him stay in his body.
Yes. That's
And
it.
when he stayed in his body,
Mhm. Yeah.
The same
Yep.
thing happens with when a person gets drunk. You know, when they get drunk, sometimes you get drunk and you remember everything, and sometimes it's like a complete blackout,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's because something else is in your body.
Yes. Yes. The the vermin, the entities, the whatever we want to call that.
Mhm,
Um, and literally, it's just taking that our own consciousness, our own awareness, that same awareness as everybody has,
mhm.
and housing, coming home and embodying ourselves.
Exactly, exactly,
Yes.
just staying in your
Showing up.
body.
Exactly. Miriam says, "Hi, all. We'll watch the replay. I had a 7 p.m. appointment today and just got home. Hi, Miriam. Good that you're here. Spirits, right? It's another word for them." Bill
Mhm.
says. Good. I think that's it for questions.
Okay, and,
Mm,
I'm also, open to doing if anybody has more questions, like doing a live, Q&A, or I also offer, like, discovery calls if you want more information. Um, you know,
Great. Great.
we're here to
Yeah.
help, and let's start building. I don't like to call it an army either, but,
Yeah. Community.
community.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yep.
We love you
This
too,
feels.
Bill.
Yeah. I love you too, Bill. Love everybody here. Thank you all for being
We
here so much. And I'll post the replay soon and put the handouts in there. And Claudia's available. And soon we're gonna. Well, I want to mention the religion thing. Do you want
Okay,
to
yeah.
mention it?
Okay, you go.
Okay. We're building this what we're calling the new PBS, right? Where it's like we're going to start. I met with the Seed Hypermedia guys today. For anybody who knows the backstory here, which are my seeing eye nerds, and they're building this platform. They don't like the word platform; they like the word network, which is basically sovereign websites that it's basically an internet where or a network where that maps onto the old internet, but it's truly a free zone. There's no agenda. It's peer to peer and open source. And I was telling them what Substack had and what I envision, which is like basically TV stations, right, where it's like this kind of healthcare and this spinal care from Doc Smith and whatever, and then how natural home building and indigenous plants to replant in Southern California or whatever, right? Like it's just all this and it's free and it's open and it's video and writing and all of it. And the question is always where do we build this? Who's funding it? All of these sort of questions about getting it started. I started the Natural Healing Radio Hour. We have Claudia coming on, but we don't have like the place where we all meet, kind of thing. Um, but then, but so Claudia had this idea, which it's a religious trust, basically.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, yeah. So and so basically to start a religion, which is, in my view, the fundamental, like it's the first problem we have, which is this idea of like separation from God and nature, which is the same thing, or separation from the feminine. So separation at all, and then you have a middleman, right? You have a priest, you have a Bible, you have a process, you have the Ten Commandments, you have a way to get back to God, a way to get back to nature. So they take nature, sell it back to us. They take God and sell it back to you in the form of a religious text. And L. Ron Hubbard is famous for saying, in the leader of Scientology or whatever, that if you really want to make money, you should start a religion. And that's what Scientology is. Scientology is a multi-billion-dollar. It's like I think
yeah.
it's like next to the Catholic Church in terms of wealth, and of course the Catholics they're ace at this. Um, and so I was like, oh my god, that's cracking the code. So your note, we need to outsmart them, right? Yes. To me, that's the answer. It's like this is then the people's religion, and the religion is fulfillment for all.
Mhm.
Everybody wins. I believe
Yeah,
everyone should win. I believe, like it's a fucking belief.
yeah, like,
It's actually just natural law, but maybe
exactly.
it's the religion of natural law, right?
And those could be like our commandments,
Those are
or,
our commandments.
like,
Everybody wins. Fulfillment for
everybody
all. Yeah.
wins. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Fulfillment.
Everybody is sovereign, everybody is free.
Yes.
You know, that
Yes.
that that could be. like the basis of you're
Yeah.
right. We just
Yeah,
have to come
exactly.
up with a name.
Yep. The people's religion, the one religion. I don't know what we call it, but
The
exactly. And
natural religion,
natural religion, the natural law religion.
the
Yes.
natural law religion, or the
Yes, religion.
natural lawism.
Yeah.
Naturalism.
Naturalism. Naturalism. Naturalism. Yes. Right.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Defoul. Yes. And so then it's like, oh, then we're and I always said, talked about cults a lot. And I'm like, I don't want to belong to any group that doesn't have everyone as a member. So it's sort of like the cult. we're, we're the cult.
Exactly. The.
But that's what we can sort of orient around, right? And very tongue in cheek, like we're a religion, we're a cult, but really
Mhm.
we're just abiding by what's true, what natural law is, that we are meant for fulfillment for all, not for this extractive, insane setup.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
Exactly.
so we'll see how we unfold this, but to me
Yeah.
that was like that's as ace and as outsmarting as it gets. Leave it to the
Yeah.
gnome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I would love to know my gnome name.
Yeah, totally. I know, I was just thinking about renaming ourselves, like, Meg is a good Hobbit name, but I was like, I think we need I don't know. I'm this idea of, like, we're baptizing and sort of anointing and healing ourselves, that maybe
Mhm.
we all have our own we baptize ourselves a new name kinda thing.
Well, I have a few names that I've received, in
Yeah,
different ways during journeys or during dreams, but I never
yeah,
thought of myself as a gnome. That's cool.
yeah.
I'm gonna listen to you tomorrow, like
It'll be
live.
fun.
I'm
It's
gonna
gonna
try
be
to come live. I always listen to the replay, but
cool, yeah,
I'm gonna try to
it'll
come.
be fun. Great, I can't wait for everybody to have it, and then we can play jazz together, with this new information. And you'll start
And
seeing it, right? You'll go, "Oh, that's a gnome," "That's a hobbit, that's a fairy."
exactly.
So, yeah, tomorrow
Okay.
at noon Pacific, I'll lay it all out.
Wildfire Rose says naturalism is what popped into my thought a moment before you both
Ah,
said.
amazing.
So
Perfect. Another gnome.
it's a yes. It's a
It's a
yes.
yes. It's a yes. That's right. Simple as that. Did I go like this, or did I go like this? We both went like those dolls. Right.
Well,
Awesome.
thank you so much for having me
Thank
here.
you.
And
Thanks for coming.
yeah,
Great.
we'll
You'll be back. We're just going to keep this conversation going and we'll see where we do it. But certainly, I expect that you'll be
exactly.
back and we'll be here together again.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing your space with
Thank
me.
you for coming.
And really, really, really grateful. Thank you.
Me
And
too. So great.
I forgot to read this last time.
Oh,
And it's just stay rooted in your body, clear in your heart, and anchored in your truth. Keep your field sovereign, your awareness sharp, and your spirit soft. Sending love, light, and blessings to each and every one of you.
beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. See you next time.
Bye.